Paris in the summer, where hearts turn to gold. It's gonna be a wild ride. Everyone's invited. CBC and GEM have you covered.
Here comes DeGrasse. It is Summer McIntyre. Goals for Canada.
It all begins July 26th. The world comes alive in a global act of unity. Summer's gonna be popping. Let's go!
Hey everyone, and welcome on in. Andy Petrillo here, your host of Prime Time for the Paris Olympics. We are inching closer to the July 26th opening ceremony. So much to still get into, so much to prepare you for, so you are ready for Paris 2024. Today we're going to be all in the pool. We're talking swimming, and we're also talking diving. Team Canada announcing the 5 divers who will be representing the Maple Leaf in Paris. So let's dive right in and bring one of them in right now, and that is Kaylee Mackay. Kaylee, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So excited to have you with me.
And we are so excited to see you compete. We've been following you for a few years now, and we know that Tokyo, you made your Olympic debut, but we also know that you were entering with a pretty bad ankle injury to the point that we saw you even getting carried around afterwards because you couldn't put a lot of pressure on it. How have things changed this time around for your preparation going into Paris versus Tokyo?
Before Tokyo, I was really mentally prepared. But unfortunately, the month before, I had a really bad injury. So this time, knocking on wood, I'm completely healthy. I had surgery on my ankle 2 years ago, almost to the dot. And I feel good. I'm mentally very happy with my training. And I mean, I have a lot more experience going into this Olympics than I did going into Tokyo. I'm kind of the veteran on the team, as people are saying right now. So I feel really prepared mentally and happy that I'm healthy.
It is a young team for sure. And it's crazy to think, right? Your second Olympics, but you are seen as a veteran, a leader. What kind of responsibility comes with that? I mean, are you actually looking at that going, ooh, I've got to do X, Y, and Z, or are you just still focusing on what you need to do?
I mean, I approach every competition and even every training day the same way, and I try to put myself forward as a leader. I try to really help out with like any experiences that my friends need to have help with, or if they're struggling with a competition. And I just try to be there for them because I know that's what I would have wanted when I was young, and that's what a lot of the people on my team did for me. So I'm just trying to fill in the footsteps and be a positive role model.
Talk about your partner, because I know now as well you have managed to qualify for both individual and synchro. So what has it been like teaming up with Kate Miller?
It's been really refreshing. I mean, she's such a young athlete, and she's got a lot of energy, so she keeps me on my toes. It's been really exciting. She's super motivated, so it hasn't been that difficult to go through these competitions. The beginning of our seasons weren't the easiest because she hadn't experienced much high-level competition, so it was a really big step for her, and I was really happy that I was able to be there for her because I went through a really similar thing when I was 16, getting thrown onto the world stage. So hoping that my experiences helped her grow, and I think that we work really well together, and she's one of my best friends now, so we've got really good chemistry, and I'm really excited to see her at her first Olympics.
How does it feel to also be competing in the individual event? Obviously, again, knowing that what happened, heading into Tokyo and not being able to compete at the Canadian Olympic trials, but now you are going to be competing in synchro and the 10-meter individual. What does that mean to you?
It means the world to me. It's really like a dream come true. Like I said before Tokyo, I was really prepared for Olympic trials. I was like the most ready that I had ever been in my career, and I knew that I could take that spot. But things happen. So now being able to go into Paris as, an experienced athlete, that I know my competition, I know myself really well as an athlete, I know my dives really well, and I'm really excited to stand up there, as much as I love synchro, but I love being there individually too, and just standing there on my own, being able to be strong, and also being in front of my family, doing individual is just, it just all brings it together really sweet. So I'm really excited, and it's hard for me to believe that it's actually really like happening. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Speaking of being in front of your family, you're going to be in front of a lot of people. And I know a lot has changed since 2021. And I think for some people, it just feels so normal now to have fans in the stands. But that wasn't the case in Tokyo. And these are going to be the Olympics where finally fans in the stands will return. How excited are you for that?
I'm really excited. I mean, Tokyo was really odd, like, and it wasn't necessarily the experience that I think any of us hope for a first Olympics. You know, the first Olympics, you always dream your family is going to be able to be there and cheer you on and be there to support. But it's super exciting to have them coming to Paris. Like, it's a dream come true for them too, and to have so many people in the stands is going to be amazing. And I think it's going to be a bit of a shell shock for a lot of people because, like, with diving, we don't necessarily sell out the stands all the time. So it's a really nice experience to be able to like showcase it and also have, you know, that environment and like atmosphere for us.
Really looking forward to it, Kaylee. Really looking forward to what you can do and appreciate you taking the time here on the show.
Thank you so much.
So great having Kaylee Mackay on, and her first order of business in Paris will be 10-meter synchro with partner Kate Miller. That gets started on July 31st. Let's go swimming, shall we, with Britt McLean. Brittany McLean, our swimming analyst. That's right. We were going in the pool now for swimming. And there's a lot of Canadians that we can continue to talk about. And we've been mentioning them, Britt, Summer McIntosh, Maggie McNeil, more that we're going to get into. But I want to actually go global a little bit here, right? And talk about the competition that the Canadians will be facing in the pool, because other trials are going on right now in USA and Australia. I mean, these are some heavy hitters as well when it comes to swimming. So when in relation to the events that Canadians can be competitors in, who are they looking at?
Yeah, I mean, talk about big trials. I mean, right now, currently happening, we have the Americans where they're about 5-6 days into a 9-day program, which interestingly enough, the US schedule has exactly mimicked the Paris Olympic schedule. Okay. So their trials, I find it really fascinating because any doubles that the athletes are doing, that really implies like you're doing multiple events on one day. That's going to be the same. It's basically a dress rehearsal for the Olympics. So I think it's really smart. If an athlete qualifies in 2 events on one day, they've proven that they're able to do that at the games. So that one's about just over halfway through. And then the Australian one's wrapped up 4 or 5 days ago. And the French are actually happening right now, which interestingly enough, Leon Marchand, although we're not necessarily going to chat too much about him today, he is an athlete to watch when it comes to that French Olympic team, of course, happening in his very backyard. So that one's really fun. But I would say, my biggest takeaways from these trials is really just the 2 powerhouses being Team Australia and Team USA. There's been a rivalry there. It's a constant conversation in the sport. After the 2023 World Championships, Australia was making a bit more of a push against the against the Americans. And USA was kind of shaking a little. And they've been using this trials to kind of bounce back and be like, you know what? We still want to be the best swimming nation. And they are doing their trials in a football stadium. So Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis is hosting the US American swimming trials. Now, last night, they hit a record number, over 22,000 spectators, not including the athletes, not including support staff. 22,000 ticketed members inside those stadiums cheering on their swimmers. So as an athlete, like, of course, retired, but as an athlete myself, thinking about that many people supporting swimming is just really thrilling. And I know that's just a stepping stone toward Paris. So those are just a few things I've been noticing over the last little bit. We've seen world records broken at the Aussie trials. We've seen 2 already broken at the American trials. And again, there's still 3 days to come. So I would say it's a safe bet that swimming right now is faster than it's ever been.
That is so impressive to be able to get those numbers. Now, I do wonder how much of that is also the Katie Ledecky effect. We'll get into that in just a moment because I do want to talk backstroke first. Yeah. And this is somebody, we look at Kylie Moss, she's a world champion, in this event as well. But what is she up against? Yeah,
the 2 best to ever do the event in the 100 backstroke. So that's Regan Smith, the American, just broke the world record a few nights ago. And I find it really fascinating with this event because the world record, the progression of that event has changed dramatically in the last 7 years. A full second. If anyone remembers, Kylie Moss broke the world record in 2017. that was such an exciting meet at the World Championships to be able to have a Canadian world record holder. We hadn't seen that happen since Anna Mae Pierce many years before then. So Kylie really made a statement in 2017 saying, you know what, Canadians are capable of breaking world records. That world record time was 58.10. The time that Regan Smith went the other night was a 57.1. So a full second faster in a race that is less than a minute long. So you've got to think in the last 7-8 years to see that event progress in the way it has. The other name, of course, in the mix, Kaylee McEwen. Now, she's the Australian who broke the world record, Reagan's previous world record within the last couple of years. So those two basically have gone back to back in the last 3-4 years. Who had it before then? Of course, Canadian Kylie Moss. So as much as it is a huge storyline to keep an eye on, Kylie Moss at the moment is, if you're looking on paper, fighting for a bronze medal. She is still a little ways off of what those two have gone back and forth. Kaylee, and sorry, they're all tongue twisters. Kylie. Kaylee McEwen is one that is going to want to make a statement back at Regan Smith. Now that Regan, she looks phenomenal, by the way, is just swimming personal best times almost every time she dives in the water. She's also going to be swimming the 200 butterfly up against Summer McIntosh, who we'll get to soon. But I would say Kylie's main competition would be for that bronze medal. There's another American that is kind of surging towards the secondary place in Catherine Burkhoff. She was under that 58-second barrier. Kylie, though, at the trials in the Canadian side, was under 58 seconds for the first time in a couple years. So that's really encouraging where Kylie's at. I think we should be excited. I think we need to acknowledge it. But I think we also need to be a little realistic that the rest of the world has caught up.
Sure.
And so I think she's realistically a podium potential. But those two, Regan Smith and Kaylee McEwen, oh my, like, it is exciting to watch. And Kaylee is definitely watching these U.S. trials being like, I'm ready. Like, Paris is going to be the moment.
So let me ask you this. Do you think another world record will be set at the Olympics?
I think when you have the two and, well, now third, the three best to ever swim this race, all racing under at one time in one heat in one moment, it's going to take a world record to win that race, in my opinion. Like,
and you motivate each other,
right?
Right? Because it's one thing, I mean, obviously at the trials, you're up against stiff competition, but when it's the best in the world, you just find another gear.
Well, and you have to, because truly it's, you know, these trials really are some of the most high pressure situations. And in order to get on an American roster, an Australian roster, and in some events, a Canadian roster, it takes, you know, world-class time. And we talk about the U.S. trials often being the fastest meet in the world. And it's not the Olympics, we acknowledge that. But the depth that they have in the U.S., like the people that come third and fourth and fifth that we'll never see compete at Olympic Games, and those of you at home that aren't maybe aware, only 2 per country rule across every event. So we won't even see some of these athletes compete, and yet they could win an Olympic medal with their times. That's how fast they are. So they're prepared, they're going through the motions at these trials. This is really great race preparation. But when it comes down to it, they're only focused on Paris. So part of me also thinks, like, what have they kept in their wheelhouse?
Jeez.
And what do they still have to come? Now, I am getting excited about this 100 backstroke because it's early in the program. It was day 1, the preliminary, day 2, the preliminary, day 3, the final. So what that means is they're going to be fresher. When we're looking at an athlete like Regan Smith, by day 9, she's going to have swam, I don't know, probably 15 times. But on day 2, 3, world records might be broken because you're fresh and you're excited, and that's going to be your first individual event. So for Kaylee as well, I don't know. It's going to be so good. That's a race. I mean, I hope you can tell. Like, that's one of those races that we're watching the best to ever do it go neck and neck.
Yeah, I love that. And we're going to see a lot of these great races.
Yeah.
That's the 100 back.
Yeah.
What about the 400 free?
I mean, if there's an event I'm most excited about, it's that. And yet I just finished talking for the last 5 minutes about my excitement for the 100 backstroke. So the 400 free, I mean, I'm a little biased because that was one of my events that I did quite often. I've swam against Katie Ledecky my whole career. And so to see her continue to perform after over a decade, like, as much as all these athletes have started to catch her slowly, last night I watched her in the 1500 freestyle at the American trials. She won by almost an entire lap of the pool. She holds the 16 fastest times in the 1500 free. And so just thinking about that, of course, now we're talking about the 4, but I just wanted to kind of stamp the legacy of Katie Ledecky for a second, because she truly, when we talk about swimming, especially distance freestyle, like, she has led this group toward new heights, new barriers. Athletes like Ariane Titmus and Summer McIntosh would not be where they are if it weren't for Ledecky. And what I think is so special about her as a leader, she is so humble. She'll get out of the pool. She is always just thanking everyone around her. She also just genuinely, like, is grateful, I think, for the success she's had and doesn't take any meet for granted. She also doesn't shy away from a duel. She does not back down. When it comes to entering a program, she will be in every single event that she knows she has potential at. And I really, really admire that as an athlete. I think it's really easy to know there's an athlete like Titmus or an athlete like McIntosh, and you can build your program around the events like the 1500 where she is a clear favorite. But no, she stands up and she swims the Turner Free. She's already mentioned she might not do that one at the games, but the 400, she's going in as the third best. And she is going to swim it as one of her main events, and she's putting her all into it, and she keeps her name in the mix. Now, Titmus, of course, I very quickly kind of went over her, but the current world record in this event right now held at 3:55. She was just shy of that mark at the Australian trials last month. So we can agree she's in top form. The one thing of this factor, we haven't even talked yet about McIntosh, but the one piece of this puzzle, Summer McIntosh going into Canadian trials didn't have any competition. So her coach was pretty open about the fact that he didn't what we call taper for the meet, which means basically peaking as an athlete's full potential. So they go through these training cycles. You want to be able to what we call fully taper, rest, shave down, all the things for ideally only 1 or 2 times for the whole season. So Summer was able to completely save her taper for Paris. But what that means for the rest of us is we don't really know what she's capable of. So going into these Olympic Games, it will be Ariane Titmus, the favorite. Then it will be, as far as the trials are concerned, Katie Ledecky's time would have been second and Summer McIntosh third. Now, personal best times, Ariane Titmus, Summer McIntosh. She did hold the world record in this only a year ago. And then Katie Ledecky. Coming into games, it's all going to be about being able to manage the pressure. It is day one. Nobody's going to be tired. You are fully ready. You are fully prepared, and it's the one moment to shine. Now, unfortunately, Summer last summer
at Worlds.
Yes, felt a bit of that pressure, and she unfortunately came fourth in the race after we built it up, and then it was all Titmus, and then Ledecky, and then she was even out-touched by a swimmer from New Zealand. So for Summer, this is really big for her to be able to say, you know, I'm capable of racing against the best in the world. I've managed the pressure. I've worked on this. Her support staff has been working for this whole year on that very day one of managing how she's going to fill that. But after the Canadian trials, I think as much as her time doesn't put anywhere close to Ariane Titmus's in comparison, I think she was just a completely relaxed and in the middle of training swimmer. So I think that's going to even out a little bit.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy is I do wonder how much Summer McIntosh did learn from the Worlds last year, going up against Katie Ledecky, which she's gone up against her before. She's beaten her. That was a big one. That was a loss. And I remember, just to go completely different here in a winter sport, but I remember speaking to the American figure skater Nathan Chen when he was going into his first Olympics, and he was riding this undefeated streak. And then he did not do well at the Olympic Games in Pyeongchang prior to Beijing. And I remember speaking to him afterwards, and he says, you know what? Obviously, he's looking back. He goes, I wish I lost heading into the Olympics. Because sometimes that helps you a little bit in what it is you need to do, what it is you need to change. Not so much that it humbles you, but it does teach you about that pressure and adjusting, right? So I wonder if that's also a little bit of a mentality where Summer's like, okay, because then she did go on and have an exceptional World Aquatics. She already flipped the switch immediately within that tournament. But I wonder how much she can look at that and go, it's not going to happen at the Olympics again.
I think it really is one of the best things to ever happen to McIntosh. I mean, she's so young still, so we do have to put into perspective, like every competition, it's not like she's been to, 12 world championships and she could come and be like, oh, this is what I did at Worlds that time. Every race is a new learning opportunity. She doesn't even know at her age probably what her perfect taper looks like. Like her coach is still experimenting on things, as they should be. She's so young. So I think it's the best thing that could have happened to her. I think it really helps her take a bit of this pressure off Paris because, yes, we're talking about her, of course. She's going to be coming out of these games as one of the most successful athletes, I believe, across the board. But the conversation is surrounding many people. It's about the race itself. It's not about just the athlete. It's about, the moments behind the scenes. It's about all of the things that led her to this point. And that's, I think, allowing herself to be, she has her own goals. She's not going to talk about all of them, but she has that internally. She knows what she wants to achieve at these games, and she's done the preparation, and now it's about standing up and racing.
Let's talk Canada as a whole in the pool, because once again, the prediction is that they'll pick up 6 medals, which is what they did at the last games. Agree, disagree? You think more, you think less? And who do you think is going to win the majority of those?
I mean, I am usually, Andy, one of those people that does not like to jinx anything. I don't like to overpredict and underdeliver. I am always a little bit cautious, but I am confident in this one. I truly am. I think Canada's going to win more than 6 medals in the pool. I think McIntosh alone has a chance to win 5.
Whoa!
Yeah, I know, putting that on the scene, but it really is true. I mean, we have events. Okay, so this is an interesting kind of parallel to the U.S. trials. So there's certain events that we are way behind in terms of the comparison. So the U.S. time that won the U.S. trials is way faster than Canada. We can acknowledge that. But then there's some events that were either right there or a little bit better. One of them being Summers 400 IM. Truly, her world record in the 400 IM nobody's come close to it. Like, she is the favorite in that event by 8 seconds. So no matter what event you're swimming, 8 seconds is a very large sum of time. And then we have some athletes that it is all about the race and the close races. And someone like Maggie McNeil, you know, that's another race where the 100 butterfly, the world record was just broken at the US trials by Gretchen Walsh. So she's coming in as the reigning Olympic champ, but she's going to be entered in like 5th or 6th. And so when asked, do I think Maggie McNeil has a chance to medal at the Olympics? Absolutely, I do. But I don't think it's promised, and I don't think it's something we could take for granted. So when I'm making predictions, I would put Kylie in that conversation. I would put Maggie in that conversation. I put Summer in that conversation 4 times. I put some of our relays in the mix. But I'm also really excited about the men's team.
The men's program is caught up.
I'm really excited about the men's program, and I think they deserve a lot of our time and energy over the next couple months, because this one right here, Josh Liendo, we're going to be talking about him for years to come. And I think the cool thing about Josh is he's training at the U.S. with the likes of Caleb Dressels and a lot of the men's national team on the American side. He's gotten a ton of experience in the NCAA program. But what's so special about Josh, too, is he is just constantly kind of notching slowly. And what I mean by that is he's not coming out, you know, he doesn't have one massive meet that we're all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, Josh Liendo, world champion. But he's slowly inching his way up, and he's now put himself in a position. He potentially is going to go into Paris as the favorite in the 100 butterfly. And nobody's really talked about that, because I think it's always just like, yeah, he's in the mix, and he currently holds the best time this year in the 100 butterfly. Now, that is an event that hasn't been swum yet at the U.S. trials, so of course, something we have to keep an eye on. But he has a chance to not only win a medal, but he has a chance to win a gold medal. And he also has other events. He's going to be swimming potentially in the 50 and 100 free. The reason I say potentially is, of course, they'll go back with those are the events he qualified in. He'll go back with his coaches. He does have a double in the 50 and the 50 free and the 100 flyer on the same day. So he'll have to decide how he wants to kind of manage his program. But again, Josh Liendo, a really good example of someone that's in the mix and they're fighting for top of podium. Also, Eli Haroun, I've been trying to slowly ease him into our conversations for a while now, but his 200 butterfly time at the Canadian trials would have won the American trials. So he does coincidentally train out of the U.S., so he's got a lot of experience with a lot of these youngsters from the U.S. that are really doing well in the event, especially in the 200 fly. But he trained with Leon Marchand. He has gotten experience with Bob Bowman. Those are some of the greats across this sport. And so he is one that after Worlds last year, I mean, talk about, you know, taking the positives, but also being honest in your frustration. He would touch the wall and he was like, I know I can be better. And he was 4th by this much. And so for him, it was about getting on the podium. But I don't think anything's stopping him when it comes to potentially climbing up the podium as well. So I see a couple men's events that we could fight for. I mean, it's all going to be so close. This is the thing. And one time you win one, then other time you're going to be just 4th and on the outside looking in. But the men's relays are chasing. We also have Finley Knox, who's the reigning world champion in the 200 AM. So as a Canadian swim fan, of course, I've now listed 12 events. We're not winning 12 medals. But all of these have a chance, Andy. And a chance is all I need to get excited.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Yes.
I'm okay with that.
Yes.
If this energy isn't contagious, I don't know what's going to get you going for swimming at Paris 2024. There's a lot of numbers thrown your way as well. The 50 this, the 400 that, the 200 this name, that name, all these times. But you know what? Have no fear. That is what we are here for here at CBC with our morning, afternoon, and primetime shows. We're going to take you through all of it. And of course, Brittany McLean, our swimming analyst, will make sure that you are on top of everything that is happening at swimming at the Paris 2024 Olympics. Once again, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, opening ceremony July 26th right here on CBC.
Paris in the summer. where hearts turn to gold. It's gonna be a wild ride. Everyone's invited from the city of light, the city of love.
Catchberg lets it fly. Gold for Maggie McNeil.
And CBC and Gem have you covered. Coast to coast to coast. To the hot Paris sun, the world comes alive in a global act of unity.
Julia Grosso to win it for Canada. Canada gold. Nobody will catch him today.
Cameron Rogers, the world champion.
It all begins July 26th.
This is a performance for the history books.
Find the light and you'll feel the love. Be the love and you'll see the light.
Here comes DeGrasse, accelerating. Gold for Canada. It is Summer McIntosh.
Summer's gonna be poppin'. Let's go!